JBR Podcast.
Wake up and check it out.
Where music and life connects. Let's go.
Yeah, no.
Yo.
You can hear me good?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, man. So I've heard like tons of great things about you, and so fuck it, let's just get into it. What's going on in your world? Like, you got some advocacy stuff going on as well, and music, and you got tons of shit happening.
Advocacy? Advocacy, sorry?
I was Googling you, so I don't know if like...
You Googled me? Did I come up?
Yeah, you did come up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it just said
I have a lot. There's actually a lot of stuff happening right now. I've been scooped up just recently by some... I don't want to jinx it, and I can't talk about who it is, but some pros, some pro people that are big, that have done it all with some people,
Nice.
and I'm getting an opportunity to sing for this project. I can say that for Fear the Possessed, my project, we're lucky enough to have an ex-member of the Devin Townsend project in there as a bass player, but there's just been some opportunities. So an abundance of music. It was quiet for a while, a lot of hard work for FTP, but the FTP Fear the Possessed brand. It's about recovery as well. And we have a podcast too called Recovering Loudly. So yes, and I'm a recovering addict myself.
I think that's what I was reading about, and they were wording it on some of the articles like advocacy for, you're using music to go along with a lot of that stuff. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, the thing is with music, there's the scene is so inundated with music, right? There's so much metal. There's just a lot of bands, a lot of people doing it, and I'm just trying to think like, what's a way I can get in there and do it differently, like instead of waiting on musicians to write or show up. Like, I'm lucky to have who I have right now for sure. But what's a way to kind of get past the whole rock star things? When I first started making music, it was like get drunk and get girls and be a rock star. And it's just so boring. It's so dumb, like in my opinion. I mean, whatever, if you're young. So like, how can I be a rock star and give back, or how can I get up on stage? Because once you get humbled and you go through recovery, you become humbled, and then you realize getting up there, you hold a bit of power, so you want to give back. So I'm like, yes, instead of just being another metal band or another rock band or another band trying to do something, I want to make my lyrics about recovery. Some of them are political, and then of course go on TikTok, and we have a podcast as well, and it's an apparel brand. It just was me throwing stuff at the wall after another band fell apart. And it's so funny because Fear the Possessed started because I had a disagreement with an old band, and they didn't want to use a shirt design. So we dispersed. We broke up over a shirt design, which became my brand. So it's just strange. Awesome. So when one stupid door closes in your face because someone's just not thinking properly, more open up.
Yeah.
That's what my life musically and in life has been, just a sequence of failures that just have led me to where I am now. But I guess there's no fail. It's always you win or you learn.
For sure.
That's what I like to say.
For sure. Yeah, no, I relate to that, because that's kind of what molds you as a character, is how you react to those failures. Essentially, we all have them. That's what makes people great musicians and great people at the end of the day, is, how do you react to all that bad shit that goes on in life and wrong decisions you make. And yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Absolutely. Are you a musician?
Yeah, I play music. I'm in the blues genre, which is totally
okay.
Yeah, and I kind of relate to what you're touching on. How, like, there's a million blues bands out there. They're all runking away at the same fucking 12-bar blues. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you do something, different? I got into the podcast. I deal with a lot of business outside of music. I've kind of acknowledged that in today's world of the music business, it's kind of about, there's no money selling to people that want to hear music. The money's selling to people that want to make music. That's why Sam the Record Man's broke and Long and McQuaid's are expanding.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of cool to talk to somebody else, and D kind of set this up for us, because I said,
shout out to D. Yo.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to break out, because I know so many people in the blues world. I'm entrenched in that, all over North America, parts of Europe.
Really?
Done a ton of stuff. Yeah, I've toured all over North America, parts of Europe. I got a Juno nomination back in 2014. Probably 20 other awards along the way.
I did not know you, sir. I checked out your podcast. I seen that I think this would be episode 16 or 17 right now, isn't it?
I think, yeah, probably 22 or something like that.
Yeah. So I checked it out on Spotify, and I was like, okay, cool. But I mean, man, I'm like really busy, and I've got ADHD. Like, it's legendary. So it's brutal. It's really brutal.
No, I think it's totally cool. And I do this as like totally unscripted. I kind of quickly Googled you, and I know we are just meeting here kind of for the first time. And that's fun, it's totally fun. And that's what I want this to be about. Like, most of my pods are all people I've known for years, or, somebody that, I've crossed paths with maybe a couple times or something like that. But to break out, I don't do a lot in metal, but it's cool. And I know some guys that do. There's actually a drummer I play with. He's great at like blues shuffles, but he's also like a metal guy. I don't know if you know him, Matt Healy. He's out in Chilliwack.
Matt
Good
Healy.
drummer.
That name rings a bell for sure.
Yeah,
he's in the music community. What instrument do you play? So what?
Guitar.
Okay.
Guitar vocals.
That's
yeah,
cool.
I front my own blues thing. And that's what I like about this podcast, is we can meet for the first time. People come watch this and go, hey, here's two guys that are talking. You're from a totally different musical world than I am. We don't really know what either of us have done in the business. So have a conversation and
just wing it. That's how I do it sometimes with my own podcast. Like, I get a brief bit of, that's the thing. You're starting fresh. You're starting a podcast, and you've got to. I shoot from the hip too a little bit. I do want to know who they are, obviously, to some degree. But in the podcast world, what I've heard is getting even to 100 episodes, most people give up, right? That's the thing. You got to have your friends on, people. It's hard, I guess, just to stay consistent enough to get to 100 episodes. And then the bigger guests start taking you more seriously, from what I understand. But I guess it's all who you know as well. But
yeah, for sure. And for me, I toured in the 90s with BB King's ex-bass player after he left BB's band. And I know a lot of, I guess, I had a buddy of mine come on, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to be on, man. You got some movers and shakers on your podcast."
Well, you already got them.
Good for you. I've had him on, and I kind of dove into country, Ken McCoy was just on, and we didn't really know each other until we jump on the podcast. So I come from the blues world, so I've toured and recorded with a lot of legends in the blues over the years.
That's
but
sick.
I just don't want
but
it
I'm
to
really
be
honored that I'm here. Then, man, for sure. I mean,
no, I'm honored that you took the time to come. Yeah, I'm honored you took the time to come on, and that's why I've kind of reached out to people and said, hey, let's get some people on that I don't know, that if somebody knows somebody, then cool. Let's have a conversation. Tell me, what other things that you've been doing, shows you're playing, projects you're working on.
Well, yeah, you know what, man, I am metal, but I grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix and The Doors and Janis Joplin and Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and the Moody Blues and Pink Floyd. When I was when I was really young, I was a long-haired hippie, just listening to all that kind of stuff, man. That before I'm trying to remember what my first metal album was I guess it would be Sabbath technically, but then, and I was lots of old school Alice Cooper for sure, right? And but that's what I was doing, just getting stoned on acid, on weed, listening to that type of music for the longest time before I ever listened to metal. And I was until I was mid-20s. And then I think I discovered Gwar, I discovered Metallica Ride the Lightning. And I was just like, what is this? And that was in the when was that? Late 2000s. So this album, Ride the Lightning, had been out for so long. forever, right? And it's just my transition was like I was born in the 70s, but
Yeah.
it still followed the same path. But I was born in 1982, so. But yeah, I listened to the stoner rock and acid rock before I ever got into metal.
Cool. So before you got into metal, were you playing like music shows and stuff, or?
So I was playing guitar. I'll be super honest with you. I didn't start playing music until I was probably 21, and I went to this house, this hippie house, right? And I got fed like 5 hits of acid, and this guy handed me a guitar in drop D. So I didn't really play guitar. It was in drop D, so you could just hold the frets and be like da-bow, da-bow, and it was easy. And I was like, whoa. And then I started playing, and he had a drum set there. And I'm talking, it was like Charlie Manson sort of vibes in there, like in the sense of just wild barefooted hippies, and would stay there for days. I stayed there for like 3 days. Got on the drums, right? Boom, boom. I'm just like, whoa. And that was sort of my entry into music, and just slowly learning. So I was a guitar player for the longest time. Then I was drumming on the bongo drums. So I just came across this natural ability of having good rhythm and just a intrinsic interest in music, and just slowly figuring out power chords, and then banging around on the drums. And it's weird because there was times though, like when people I grew up with weren't so helpful, like a lot of discouragement. Like people like, oh, you'll never learn that, you'll never be good enough or whatever. And so I kind of half-assed it. Plus we were doing a lot of drugs and partying a lot. But eventually I just started singing metal. I just one day was walking down the street, and I'm like, I want to start a metal band. I want to sing. I want to basically reinvent Metallica, Kill 'Em All. And I just started singing, and I just started trying and trying and trying. I was awful for years, and now I'm much better at it. But that's my musical. And I know, sorry to answer your question. I never really played. I was in and out of so many different bands. I never did anything. Wasn't until I formed my own project 10 years ago that I finally got to play my first show, which was a backyard.
And it just hit you like, this is just all of a sudden, this is what I want to do. And you just fucking all in.
Yeah, I was like 30, man. Like, I'm a late bloomer. And quite possibly the guys I'm working with here and now soon, this could be an opportunity. I don't want to jinx it. I'm super excited, but yeah, out of respect for them in case it doesn't work out. But could be a 42-year-old person that gets to do some cool shit. But yes, cool, at 30, man. I just started singing. I had one of those H1 Zooms, and I would just put it on, record everything we jammed, and it was awful. It was pitchy and terrible. And I just taught myself at the age of 30 how to sing.
That's impressive and good, because I'm a taught by ear kind of guy, and I really found my musicianship level go up the more that I started listening to myself on whatever mediums we were recording on. Like in the early days, for me, it was like the Tascam little 4-track things. I'd take them around to gigs and record and listen to the cassettes. And yeah, I'd play a show and go, fuck, we were great. And then I would listen back and go, oh my God, the phrasing's all bad and singing out of tune. And, then you realize, right? Oh shit, man, you work on it harder than if you just perform all the time and never hear yourself recorded. Because it's like two totally different realities that you think in your head, at least for me.
Right? Like when I lay a vocal track down, I'm like, oh, that sounded good. And then they play it back and you're like, oh, it's pretty pitchy. Fuck. Okay. Like and same with my videos. I cringe sometimes, but yeah, like you look back at I don't think I'd like to find that old H1 that's got a bunch of stuff on it. I don't know where it is, but I bet you there's lots of old record. I don't know what I would listen to it so much it broke it, but I bet you there's some cringy toe curling bits on there, right? Me doing whatever.
You'd probably throw it out after you found it.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. That's how you learn. Like,
it is.
I've noticed that there's some people I've worked with that were like me, like went to school and stuff, and they kind of lacked that vibe of just the run to go, like just feel. So I
Yeah.
think some guys have it, just have feel.
Yeah, and I feel like in the early 90s, I played with a lot of guys that came out of Cap College and great musicians. A lot of them were really good, but a lot of them, like for blues, it's exactly what you're saying. It's all about feel. I remember having a conversation because I met BB King a bunch of times, and he was telling me like he didn't know chords, like knew how to play it all, but the theory side of it, it was like, all these old school black guys were like, well, like the whole theory thing is like white guys trying to make sense of, what these old school black blues musicians were doing. It's like, well, how do we make sense? And they were just like, just make sense for them, and you play it and you do it. And I'm the same way with guitar. I play, and I can't tell you why I get guitar players that are like, oh, you played an augmented, seventh, suspended, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, fuck, I got no idea, man.
Yeah.
It sounded good. I'll fucking play it twice, right? Like,
right? Yeah,
like
as soon as I start counting and stuff, I'm lost.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta,
you gotta count, like with a metronome and certain things. But yeah, if I start dissecting what I'm doing, then I'm done.
You just get lost. Yeah, I'm the same way, and I know so many musicians that I work with that are just like,
Oh. Are you there? I lost you.
Yeah.
You're saying you worked with so many musicians that are like, what?
Yeah, I worked with musicians that, they're very melodical. I need the chart. I need the arrangements. Like with blues, it's very, okay, I can set up the tempo and the song, but we might sing 3 verses. We might sing 1 and then do like an 8 progression solo or a 2 progression solo and then go into a chorus, or, you kind of, the arrangements aren't, and I don't know if it's this way with metal or not, but with blues, because the chord structures are a little bit more simplistic most of the time, you can just kind of like, oh, the singer's going to sing 3 progressions and then it's solo for 3. And then the next time you play it, it's like they sing 1 progression because, they're sick and their voice isn't feeling too good. And the guitar player or piano player, will solo a little bit longer just to make the song work, in a live environment kind of thing. But
you can jam a lot easier with blues, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
That was, So metal. Well, it's metal is kind of classical music too. It comes from classical music. I mean, if you break down a lot of the Metallica riffs, they're very similar structures to classical music. And I think it's the same thing in a lot, like you have good rock and roll merging slightly, same formulas with metal. But I mean, I'm one of those people that I'm just one of those people who give me a good riff. If it sounds good, then I can slam some really good cadences over it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then I do the lyrics after, right? But like I said, I don't know. I should go back to play. I haven't played guitar in a long time, and I used to play a lot of acoustic, so my screaming and singing at the same time. But if I pick up an acoustic, I play like very pretty notes. I look for those nice. I'm more of a folky player. It's weird.
Do you write tunes and stuff, or?
Because I haven't played guitar in a long time, I have to write riffs with my mouth. Like, it's weird. I'm very strange. Like, I gave up on guitar. I've had a trippy life. I was an addict for, like, a severe alcoholic for like a decade, right? So I think my one band that I was in endured a lot of that, and it was just up and down, up and down. I mean, I'd pick up the electric because my one guitar player, he had such good sound. Like his tune, he was just like, oh, I can hit that guitar, just crunch, crunch, crunch. So I'd write some riffs, mostly just melodies, things like this, but like not just like riffs with my mouth, like stuff like that. I mean, I'm not proficient at guitar in any way, but I'm better in my mind, even with drums, right? So I can write and arrange things like that.
Nice.
I guess I'm almost autistic that way.
and the lyrics and stuff. So how, like, tell me, because I've seen a lot of hard times. I lost a friend a few years ago to addiction. How'd you get out of it?
Well, to be honest, it's been hard, right? So I started officially in recovery in 2015, and then just over the years, so 2015 is when I started recovery, and that was because at the time I was losing like jobs and girlfriends. Like I wasn't aware of trauma or ADHD or any of that type of stuff. I was just like constantly repeating the pattern of losing jobs, losing this, losing that. And I finally lost this girl. It was awesome. Like it was just that one hit me hard. And it made me really think, I'm like, what is going on here? And then I had a brutal trauma response to her just piecing out, right? I was like, I just didn't understand. Why am I so messed up from this? Like, so that that was when I realized I needed to stop drinking. So I can't even remember. I went like 6 months and then slipped up. So it's just been a lot of the last, what is it? Like 10, almost 9 years now, right? 2015 was 9 years ago, or 2025 now? Yeah, 10 years. Jesus,
10
time
years.
goes by fast. So I wish I could say to you that I've had 10 years sober, but I've been in recovery for 10 years. And I probably accumulated 5 years of complete abstinence, but a lot of slips and trips. And then one of the last relationships I had was like 4+ years ago, and that one was brutal. It was a brutal breakup. My life was apart. I was in a band. It just all fell apart again, and it was just brutal. And I just was like, started researching like how to get your girlfriend back, or like because if you go online and you go, how to get your girlfriend back, or how to do this, you'll find a lot of creators out there that'll teach you how to manipulate to get your broken heart mended. And yes, of course, I got her back, but I lost her again because you aren't fixing the problem. So the good coaches online will tell you, hey, like, look at your trauma, look at your ADHD, look at your attachment spectrum. Because there's like this, that's what makes musicians cool, is that we are, as Maynard James Keenan said on the Joe Rogan podcast a long time ago, we're merchants of emotion. So we're like some of it, we're tortured souls. Like you look through music and it's just fuck ups all over the place. I mean, Alice Cooper, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Ozzy, Aerosmith, fucking all of them.
Everything, yeah.
Like just because they're broken people, right? We're broken. And I was really broken for a long time. And it was about 15 years ago, but the last girlfriend I had, that was when it all clicked 5 years ago. Because I was in treatment too once. That breakup just clicked for me. I was like, what is this? Like, this is brutal. And then I delved into trauma therapy, ADHD, and I've been battling I'm neurodivergent for sure. Like I've been battling ADHD the last year and a half on and off medication, and it's been going pretty good, but it's a hindrance. Like I never took it seriously. I always thought ADHD was the Robin Williams disease. I was like, I'm good. Robin Williams had ADHD. Like he's great. But until a counselor about a year and a half ago said, like, have you ever like thought about it? Like, because it's a dopamine deficiency. And then so my addiction has really shifted. I have a new clean date for sure, but like I don't want to share that right now, because when I say to people, I've got a year or 2 or 6 months, like I'm at a weird point where it puts so much pressure on me, and I think that you just need to what's the biggest change for me is that I've got a job now where I'm a community support worker, I'm an outreach worker. I work in mental health. I work in addiction. So like when I got out of construction and shifted into that 2 years ago, that was massive, massive game changer, because now I get up in the morning and I don't hate my fucking life. I have a job that I love. So right there it shifts. Now I've got way more responsibility. So then right there, the pressure to want to drink and escape and do drugs goes down by half. It did for me anyway. It was like taken down by 75% easily. But since I've been battling the ADHD thing, alcohol just slows my mind down, and but then it screws everything else up. So essentially, it's like my point is like you should stay abstinent. But I guess I'm not drinking recently or anything, but it's been a long weird journey, and I think I'm just a stubborn dude. Like a lot of people are like, I just want to be able to drink or do this. Like I haven't done any hard substances in fucking years and years and years, but the alcohol thing is just the perfect poison in the way it slows your mind down enough that you can think for a minute clearly, but then you drink again, and then you get the next drink, and then it goes on for a couple of days, then your fitness goes away, your meal prep, I can't write music while I'm drunk. It's a total hindrance. So it's been a weird journey. It's been a lot. It's been really strange and a tug of war for me, for sure. But I'm doing amazing. I've inspired people. I've been making recovery videos for years, and I've inspired people who are just able to shut it off, and they've got like 2 or 3 years sober. Because when I was in treatment 5 years ago, I made a lot of videos and posted them, and a lot of people just got sober and stayed there. But I've been a slow descent into it. So. That's the long fucking version of that story, or answer that question. Sorry.
I commend you for sharing that, man. You know, that kind of shit's real personal, and it's, you know, if it helps other people, that's great. You know, I had a friend that, you know, was in and out of it for years, and it eventually did get the better of him. But, you know, I've always said, you know, I enjoy my day gig and stuff. It gives me artistic creation, and I get to use my brain and, you know, fill a lot of those artistic needs. And I always say that, you know, I work to live. I live to work. I don't work to live. Right. So when you're waking up and hating your job every day, but you're going because, you know, everybody's got to work and, you know, pay their way through, you know, life to, you know, make things as easy as they can. You know, when you enjoy your work, yeah, it's a different thing, right? You don't, you're not always going down that rabbit hole of things fucking suck right now. You know, and that can happen, especially in the music business, man. It's so up and down where, you know, I've really conditioned myself to not listen to the noise, because you can let all the good things that people say go great. And then when you hear the bad things, like, they can crush you at times.
Look, the bad things, like what? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, just like people, you know, just something as simple as, you know, you play a show and people go, oh, you're fucking great. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's fucking awesome. You know, and then other times it's like, you guys fucking suck, right? I couldn't.
Oh, God. That's like reading comment sections, man. Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly, right? So if you can kind of wash out the noise, then you're not affected by the negativity that gets thrown on your plate.
What's it like? Are you still a touring musician yourself? Like, are you still playing lots?
I still play lots. Yeah. You know, I go back to Alberta and play shows there quite regularly, and, you know, throughout BC. Not so much in the States anymore. It's real difficult to get the visas these days, and I just, you know, the days of agents have kind of died, and the logistics, you know, I don't care to put that kind of work in.
Yeah, the music sounds hard now, eh?
It is, yeah. And if the phone keeps ringing, thankfully, and I keep taking gigs, but I don't look for them. You know, I used to have agents back in the day, and they'd just tell me where and when to be, and I would tour 10 months of the year. But now, you know, I might play 5 or 6, 7 shows a month kind of thing.
What's your side gig then? You working too? Is this
Yeah, I work in marketing, so I do...
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, so like website development, Google ads, Facebook ads, you know, all those kind of things to help scale businesses and their sales.
Proper lighting.
Yeah, yeah. And that gives me my creativity, because, you know, when I write ad campaigns for somebody, that's artistic, right? It's like, you know, what's your business about? What messaging are you throwing out there? It's kind of, instead of writing a song, I'm writing an ad creative kind of thing, or stuff like that.
What I was getting at, though, is on the road, I'm assuming, like, from what I understand, like, I haven't had the luxury or, well, privilege to tour the world extensively, but I'm assuming that, like, it, you know, full blown Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne style touring isn't really a thing anymore, is it? Like, it's most like.
I think it is for those kind of guys.
Oh, okay.
You know, right? Yeah. But you know, guys on my level, I know guys that still tour on the regular. It's a truck though, right? And it's tough. I got some kids and, you know, family, and like to kind of stay low to home. So, you know, the money's not there like it used to be. So going out on the road is kind of like, well, you know, there's the financial component. I'm not going to go away for an entire month and, you know, not come home with as much money as I could make just staying at home and doing some other things where, you know, I know a lot of musicians that, you know, they travel around and, you know, they work hard and they do pretty well at it, but it's a tough go financially to do it. And for me, you know, one of the album that got the Juno nomination had a tune on there. It was like, show me the money, you can keep the fame. Right. And it was kind of, you know,
it's a hit.
Yeah. It was a good one. But a buddy of mine that sold millions of records wrote that tune back in the 80s when they had their thing going on. But yeah, I play music now because I want to, not because I have to. So a club I've been playing for quite a few years in Calgary, it actually just closed locations. It's opening up a new one. So I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but maybe by the time I go do it, it'll be long gone. But they're opening up. So I'm going to do like one of their opening weekends, grand opening kind of thing. They moved locations and they've been down since January 1st, kind of rebuilding. So I'll go to Alberta for a couple shows and back here to BC. And, you know, like I said, you know, I used to go Chicago, Memphis, things like that, but visas are tough to come by. They're just so expensive now that I don't bother. You know, I've done it to where, you know, agents have said, hey, we want you to come down. We'll do all the logistics. And I'm like, okay, tell me where it is and how much, and I'll be there. And then I just go on with life until that date comes up.
That's funny because Fear the Possessed, my band, my project that I'm in, that's my baby that I started up there and had a guitar player, Brennan, who used to be in Southern Death Threat here in Vancouver, Brennan Hiles, and that's the two of us, and we got some hired musicians. Shout out to Scotty because he's like a world class drummer, man. Always playing at the Roxy. And then we got Beeve in there as a hired gun from Devin Townsend Project. These guys weren't doing much, but who produced us, me and Brennan, was Danny Craig. So shout out to him, Danny Craig, the drummer of Default. He did our recording and everything in Chilliwack, but so he toured extensively with Nickelback, and Default's still a thing too. So they do it's funny because you talk to guys. I've been lucky enough now to work with these professional dudes who have done it all, and you have all these visions of grandeur, like, oh, I'm gonna fucking make it, and then you hear them and they're like, we kind of made it back in the day, and now most of us all have regular gigs and jobs, and it's not financially practical to do most of this. But like Default will play a festival here or a festival there, which was weird too, that because we recorded our last song with Danny, and they had just played with Motley Crue, Default, and I was like, whoa, like, what was that like? Did you get to hang out with them? And like, no, we just went there, played, and we're out. Like, and it's just interesting. And it's like very, very interesting. It's just funny. But the stories of them touring with Nickelback were wild, like back in the early 2000s, because they had that Default had that hit, man, that Wasting My Time. Remember that one?
Yeah. And that was kind of like the end of the era, and you know, maybe because you came onto the scene a little bit later on, but I started playing clubs in '89, and it was kind of the end of the era where, you know, there was 6 nights. You'd get booked at a club and play Monday to Saturday. They'd book you for the whole week. So you could play 4 clubs and work 6 nights a week for a month. That's
playing originals?
You play originals, whatever your band was. Like, I don't know, are you familiar with the Headpins?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I
had Darby Mills on because she's a good friend of mine. And,
oh, no way.
And she was saying, you know, back in the 80s when, you know, they started the Headpins and stuff, they would work for 3 months just around the Lower Mainland and play 6 nights a week. There was that many venues playing music every night of the week, which doesn't exist now.
It's funny. I work with the drummer of Headpins, the founding member. I see his kid every now and then, actually.
Bernie.
Bernie. So Bernie's son. Because I'm in that industry of working with children. I get to hang out with his son once in a while. So
Yeah,
Small world.
Bernie used to book my band back in the day. He's got up on stage and played drums a few times. Not like he's more, more the rock drummer and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I haven't seen Bernie for a while. But
he's like managing lots of
way back.
rock bands.
Yeah.
Is he managing now?
Yeah. Well, he's always kind of done that. Like going back to the early '90s, he was booking my band. I had a blues band called Texas Storm, and we played like Stevie.
I know your band.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, like Jimi Hendrix kind of shit back then when I was a kid.
Texas Storm. I totally remember that name. I'm just like, who was it? What are the guys you've had in that band?
I had on bass. I had a guy named Al Cleveland, Bruce O'Neill. They were kind of Pat Darkus played for a bit. A buddy of mine, Darius Watkins, he played drums.
Okay, bro. I just got goosebumps. That's insane what you just said. So do you know the guy? Remember when I told you I went to like a fucking hippie house and stayed there for like 3 or 4 days?
That was probably
this guy fed me acid and then became my best friend and taught me music. Was Darius Watkins. Dude, I've got goosebumps. Darius, man. Wow. That's why I know Texas Storm, because Darius was just like a fucking stupid good drummer. Remember those days?
Oh yeah. Well, me and him were like best buddies up until I played with Darius, and we used a couple different bass players over the years, and we were playing bars underage. Like his mom and my dad were.
Yeah, you had to sneak in, right, Darius? You guys?
Yeah, my dad. Well, my dad had got a license from the Liquor Control Board that actually legally allowed us to play in the bars, to say, hey, we would sit in the lobbies or the kitchens, or, when I always say when I played like the Wild Duck or the Barnett Motor Inn, I had to hang in the stripper room and wait because there was outside of what they called the Red Line area, right?
Right.
And
I was driving by the Pitt River Bridge the other day, and I was like, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, the scenery has changed. Like, I never went into the Wild Duck, but I remember because it was just on the other side of the Pitt River Bridge, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a wild place.
God.
Hence the name. But yeah, no, small world for sure. But yeah, Darius and I go way back, and I kind of quit my band. I got tired of all the politics that were happening, and then I took about a year off, and I ran into Russell Jackson, who used to play with B.B. King from the 70s to the late 80s, and he had moved up here and had a kid, and I'd met him through some jams, and he said, hey, I need a guitar player. You want to come on tour? And I was like 18, so I said, yeah, fuck it, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Wow, eh? Yeah, that's so funny. Texas Storm, as you brought that up, like, why do I know that? And yeah. So Darius taught me how to play music. Like I looked up to him so much because he used to hang out in the park uptown Maple Ridge, walking around in bare feet with his crazy dreads. And then in Maple Ridge, it was the Centennial Park, I believe, and it's changed a lot now, but that's where we used to skip school and go up there, and there was tons of kids, hippies. I mean, it was weird. It was like 1969 in one corner of the park, right? And Darius would be there.
Yeah.
So many of those people and playing guitar. So that's what I would do. I would just, like I said, I would just sit there and learn how to play and just never became super proficient. But yeah, he was the one who cultivated that in me. And then, yeah, he wrote a lot of folky songs on his own eventually.
Yep.
He wrote like some hits, but then unfortunately, I think he succumbed to some of his own struggles, right? I'm not sure if you read, from what I understand, I haven't talked to him in a while, but
I know he struggled a bit, and I haven't seen him for years. We've talked a little bit on and off, but I have no idea where he's at these days.
Yeah, I think he's on the streets. I'm not sure exactly, but I remember a funny story when way back in the day when he was doing, we were all doing way too much acid, and he got put in the psych ward, and then he was gone for like a month and worked in 20s, and then all of a sudden we hear a knock. We're all partying away, like, where's Darius? Oh, he's been put away for a while, like
Riverview, right?
I think yes. And then one day we're all partying and we get a knock on the door, and he'd escaped. He talked his way out of the Riverview Hospital. He had no shoes. and he was there, and that was it. And we're just like, Darius. He's like partying with us. Yeah, he was funny, man. He was like a space alien.
Yeah, if that, you know, that's funny you say that, because I hadn't seen him for years, and I'd gone on tour with Russell, and then I kind of quit the band, and I had a bunch of press in terms of like, you know, all these things I'd done and legends I've been sharing the stage and meeting and playing and hanging with, you know, through touring with Russell for so many years. And I'd come back to home and I'd stay at my dad's place, and I had a phone call, and it was Darius. And he's like, hey man, how's it going? And I had no idea that, you know, he had, you know, kind of gone down that rabbit hole. Yeah. I just hadn't seen him for a few years. And he's like, hey man, you know, I hear things are going good. You know, we should do some playing. And I thought, oh yeah, fuck, that's great. You know, it sounds good. And then he had said something to me, and he goes, so I hear you're doing good. You must be a millionaire by now. And at that moment I was like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
Cause I ain't no fucking millionaire, right? Like not even fucking close. And then he said, I'm in Riverview. Can you help me get out?
Wow.
And I was like, well, what? And he's like, well, they'll let me out on a day pass. He said, if you'll say that we'll play some gigs together. And I'm kind of thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh man, I don't know, like, is this bad, or is he like, he sounds totally fine. Can't process what's happening here. Right. And I was like, well, you know, I'd love to do some playing with you, but you know, if you're in Riverview, like what the fuck's going on? Right. Like, I don't know, like, do they just like lock people up like that? Or did you do so? Oh no. And he, you know, then it kind of switched, and he said, well, when I get out, I'll come and meet up with you, and we'll do some playing. And then I never really, you know, heard from him again. And I did run into him. He was on the streets, and I did, you know, run in a few times and have some conversations, but fuck, he was a great drummer. Super killer.
That was the thing about his drumming. It's just phenomenal, right? Like insane. Yeah. And I do remember him telling me he was too young to get in the bars, but you guys played anyway. That was cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man, addiction, right? Like that's why we gotta take care of our mental health. It's super, super important. And that's the whole reason why, like I said, I formed this project, Fear the Possessed. It's you know, it like we got that one song out there, DOC, Drug of Choice. You can check it out on Spotify. I wrote that song about the 12 steps. Just nice. My experience with them. So and then Heavy Blood. We got it's like 6 songs, but yeah, like they're just trying to, because one of my favorite bands is Hatebreed. I don't know if you've ever listened to them, and it's a crazy name, right? I'm not wearing their shirt, but they're like old school hardcore, right? Totally wicked band. Shout out to Hatebreed, Jamie Jasta. But I mean, that name's intense, but the lyrics are all about perseverance, self-development, conquering your addictions, right? Like that's what I think that music, like that's the kind of music I want to write, kind of message I want to send, kind of, you know what I mean? It's just like elevate, keep going, keep pushing, slay the day, push through, fail forward, come on, man, stay consistent, fucking don't give in to those demons, man, and like chase your dreams, because anything's really possible. And I talk to a lot of people like you that, like, yeah, you're not Metallica, but you've done some cool shit, and it's interesting, and that's not out of the realm of possibility for people. They don't think, like, I'm running. Yeah, man,
you know, you put your mind to it, and your mind to it, and dig in, and you get it done, right? I think you're an inspiration for the shit that you know, sounds like you've been through and stuff, and where you're at now. Like, fuck, keep going, keep writing, keep making music.
Yeah, and like I said, with my musical career. Started late. Started with playing acoustic guitar with Darius. Then it's turned into a band called One Louder that was never going to do anything. Then I was in a band called Hair Supply. Hair Supply. Not air, but hair. Yeah. And then I was in a band called Pushed. Then I was, you know, I went through all these different bands and never even, I think, oh no, that's right. So that band Pushed, that rock band I was in years and years and years ago, that one made it. That was a blues rock band that made it, as I was drumming in, that made it on stage first. But my point is all these different bands and all these different things have failed. Even the band that I started 10 years ago that fell apart because of my alcoholism, that led to another band, that led to this band, but all of them mostly, you know, getting fired from or having to or breaking up, mostly because of, alcohol or ego or the wrong people. And it was funny because when I really did sober up and approach the bands without trying to take over musically or say merch design, because I like marketing too, right? It's the whole thing about FTP. I love making, like shirt images and logos. Like I like all that stuff. But when I've been in bands in the past, I would, oh, it's got to be this way. It's got to be that way. I was not easy to work with. But when I did sober up and get it all together, it was still a challenge. I was like, what the fuck? Now I'm cohesive. I'm chilling. It's still fucking hard. My point is, then I just said, then that last band I was in broke up because the shirt design thing, right? I'm not going to get into details. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's unprofessional, but the individual wasn't friendly. It wasn't a nice breakup. It wasn't a kind breakup. But that all fell apart because of our shirt design, which turned into FTP, my band now that's doing pretty decent. Like we're getting going. Then that led me to meeting some other musicians where now I may have another opportunity. And I just, that's how life goes. It's just this I don't know, this path of like failure. It's, for me, that's been my journey. I wish I was more along yours, like young and rocking out in bars, but I think everyone's is different.
Yeah, everyone's is different, and everyone's got failures along the way. Like I've been, had my fair share of relationship issues and legal issues, and everything, everything along the way, and still to this day, you run through those trials and tribulations, but you keep the sun to your face and the wind to your back, and you keep pounding the sand and make shit happen, right?
100%. Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to be on here, and I know you got something cool brewing in the background, and if that pans out or whatever happens, I know how the business works. Shit goes from left to right to backwards to up and down. So if that works out and you got some news that you want to share and are excited about, by all means, like, let's stay in touch and maybe we'll get you back on or something.
I would love that. Absolutely. And could be in like just even with marketing stuff like that. Always get to know people, right? As I grow and learn. So.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch regardless. And, if you got any shows, by all means, like, hit me up, send me a message, and I'll come check you guys out.
That email that I got with this link is your email?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, we'll connect and stay in touch. And if you do run into Darius, tell him I say hi, and
I will.
Vice versa. If I do see him as well, I'd love to, see if he's still doing okay or what's going on in his world. Because, we were pretty tight back in the day, and, we both kind of went different directions, but, always a special place for that guy.
Absolutely.
Cool, man.
All right.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah. See ya.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.